What's up, guys? Straight from the chest. My name is Justin Groth, and guys, I want to thank you for tuning in with me on this beautiful, beautiful Wednesday wrap. Guys, for the uninitiated, this is a personal development podcast geared towards igniting the dormant passion that lays within you, and hopefully my words, hopefully the guidance that I deliver does just that. Thank you to all my veteran listeners. Much, much appreciated. Guys, normally we do a We're Not Friends segment, but today I'm going to tell you a little issue that I'm dealing with. So, for those of you who don't know, I'm very, very meticulous. I'm probably the most complex, I probably see things the most complicated out of most of the people that I know. And I talk a lot about keeping things simple and taking the complexity out of things. And guys, I want you to know that I'm talking to myself on this one. In fact, a lot of the things that I speak about, I'm talking to a smaller version of me. Every time I'm speaking, I'm talking to me. And you're just witnessing it in the front row. You just got a front row ticket to the dysfunction that is me. But that's the reason why I talk so vividly and accurately and with so much poise and authenticity and authority, because I'm predicating me. I'm predicating me. I'm talking about me. And I'm not saying that to be arrogant or self-centered, or I'm saying it because I'm in the trenches with you. And I'm saying these things to be vulnerable, to give you some context as to possibly getting out of this. And I'm giving you myself as an example. I may not say it every time, but most of the time that I'm speaking about something with authority, it's because I have a direct relationship with it. So on that note, guys, there is this thing in my I've set up in my studio. They're called soundboards, and I think they're called soundboards. I'm new to this whole tech thing, podcast thing. So, but I think they're called soundboards, and they're basically foam that basically sucks up noise, echoes in the room. Kind of like furniture when you put it in a house, it absorbs a lot of the noise and the octaves that might be otherwise echoed throughout the room, right? So it's just a little way to keep the sound more tight, crisp, and drown out any outside echoes or noises, right? It's just another thing to help my voice to be a little bit more clear and a little bit more direct in the microphone. And one of my buddies, Ramon, he's the one that helped me set up this whole thing, and he was telling me I got to get this stuff. And so I did, right? Because obviously he knows what he's talking about. I don't. So I get this stuff and I put it up on my wall, and I use the same 3M adhesive strips that they give you for the foam. Okay? This is the stuff that I picked up outside from a hardware store or anything. This is direct from the provider of the foam pads. So assumingly, this is going to be the best adhesive material for this foam, right? Okay. So I start to put it on the wall, and I'm thinking, because these are squares, they're 12 by 12 squares, I'm thinking they're going to be perfectly cut squares. And they're not. And that is what I'm dealing with when I put this up, and being such the very type A personality, very perfectionist, everything's got to be in an order. I'm putting this stuff up thinking this is going to be easy. It's going to look, it's going to look badass, because it's going to be all like I'm make one big square. I'm make one big square over here, make one big square here with these 12 by 12 tiles. So as I speak to you, I'm looking at the biggest group of tiles that I have or soundboard tiles that I have on my wall. And because of the foam, I guess, they're not perfectly cut. They're like a couple millimeters off left to right. I'm not talking about centimeters, millimeters. And I see it and I hate it. I hate it. And I want to rip it all off because of it. I want to start over. But I know if I start over, if you start over with the same type of sound, there's no point to start over. This is just the way this stuff lies. and it irritates me. But I keep it up because it's practical. It's practical for the application, right? You're hearing a more crisp sound because of these soundboards on my wall, even though they pick at me because I'm looking at them, and they're picking at me because they're a millimeter off, left, right, whatever. And I try my best, guys, to put this stuff up accurately, but because they're not cut exactly, there's a deviation of a millimeter here, there, and it's just, anyway, so, and to top it off, this adhesive strip, the reason I was calling out the adhesive strip, I'll walk into the room and there'll be a board on the floor. A board came off of the wall and now it's on the floor. So I got to put it back up, right? And no big deal, but it's just irritating. Why do I come in this room, the studio, to find something on the floor that I have to put up? It's just, and this is stuff that I need. Maybe I got the wrong adhesive strips, even though I'm using the ones from them. I don't know. Fill me in. Send me an email. Type me a comment on this podcast if you know something better, because this is just shit's irritating. But I keep it up because it's practical, and it's practical for my application, and it allows for a better sound, right? But I'm so used to overcomplicating everything that in my mind, I even overcomplicated these soundboards. I wanted to take them all off, find a better way, like spend more money, and for what? They do the job. They're everything I need. But it's just those little fragments that cause me to have a commotion over it. But it's something that if I just let it go, it's fine. And that's something that I'm working on. I just gotta let this stuff go. Like, this is just, it doesn't need to be that big of an ordeal. It's serving a purpose. It's providing the function well. So I just gotta let it go. Anyways, I can't stress that enough though. When something is irritating you, but at the same time it's something you can overlook, you have to choose to just overlook it. You just can't give it more energy than that. There is no practice to this. Like, it's just, well, the practice is to consistently talk to yourself and say it's not a big deal. Like, this stuff, if we were in a $20,000 studio, it would be different. I would rip it off, because at that point I'm spending so much dollar in my studio. I would want those little things like that to be okay or to be in place. But because it's not a big deal, right? I'm just inviting you into the type A world, perfectionist world that I live in, and letting you know what I look at every day, what I want to do. I want to rip this shit off, man. I want to start over again, but it doesn't matter, because it's going to be the same thing, right? Man, the other day I was watching The Prophet, and The Prophet on the show, there was, for those of you who are on an issue with The Prophet is this guy named Marcus Lemonis. He goes into businesses and he helps failing businesses because he loves people, he loves process, he loves order. And those things create a well-rounded and refined business. We can agree on that. He goes into this business, and there is a person selling cold brew. And I love cold brew. Man. And I love going into, when I'm feeling like baller, going into Whole Foods, California Bread. Because, to be honest, man, they're so overpriced, dude. I can't. Like, I'm going to go to Starbucks before I go to Whole Foods to buy a cold brew. But if I'm feeling like baller, I'll spend like $3-4 on a cold brew, like a to-go cold brew. I'll go in there and I'll get the cold brew. But the thing that I hate about that is there's so many different options. There's like 57 options of cold brews. I just want one, like between 1 and 5 to choose from. You know, I'm cool with that. I'm cool with even just one or two. But Marcus Lemonis is helping this business get kind of revamped, bring their sales up, right? Correct their margins, et cetera, like he does in every business. So he has this person has this cold brew, and they're revamping the label. And the label is a redesign of some type of, I don't know, some type of design on the front end. It's meaningful to the lady that owns a company, right? So she's super adamant and passionate about keeping the label like that. And as I look at the label, I see just so much busyness going on in the label. And there's even a point where one of the we'll call him a mentor, somebody that Marcus Lemonis has invested in previously, called Mr. Green Tea, comes in and says the same exact thing. He says, I just think this is kind of busy. And it hurts the lady's feelings because she's passionate about the label. She doesn't want to change the label. She's like non-negotiable changing the label. And I understand that. I understand not being negotiating something that you're passionate on. You don't have to. But at the end of the day, simplicity speaks over busyness. And it goes back to the whole situation of complexity and being too complex with things, keep making things too much than they are. And this can correlate to your goals in life, having a really, really, really big goal and making it so much more of a monstrous element than it is or that it deserves. And you seeing that you just can't tackle it because it's so big. And you're right, because you've made it so big. But like the label, so much busyness going on. It's not explaining what it is. I mean, it is, but it's not, because your eyes are focused on this design, and it's taking away from the merit of the drink that's inside, and that should be the main focal point. And if there's one thing that I've learned, and you'll appreciate this, the brain loves simplicity. It loves simplicity. It loves being able to dissect and discern immediately, right away, whatever is in front of it that it's scanning. And if it can't, it starts to go into all these different questionable patterns. What is this? Why does it look like this? Why can't it be this instead? At least that's how my brain works. I don't know how yours works. That's how my brain works. And it just causes more concern than necessary. And so when I'm looking at something or when I'm going somewhere, I want there to be a process behind the order. I want if I walk into a department store, I want it to be segregated into different compartments. I don't want there to be shoes with the shirts, with the sweaters, with the pants, with the girls, with the boys, with the toddlers. I want it to be all segregated. I want there to be order. Just like looking at this label, you want there to be order with what you're looking at. If you're looking at a cold brew, you don't want to mistake it for a fruit drink because it's got some fun label on the front that tells my brain this is fun. Well, to me, cold brew isn't fun. Cold brew is stern, it's direct, it's like, we mean business. We mean business. We're not a fruity frappuccino. We're not a fruity drink or a milkshake frappuccino type situation. We're a strong, stern, direct, let's get shit done cold brew. That's how I see cold brew, at least. And so when I see this label and it's fun and it's designed well and it's very vibrant, it doesn't speak stern, direct cold brew like I think a cold brew should look, with very a contemporary style to it, very hard edges and to the font, etc., right? I mean, that's how I see cold brew. The more simple, the better in the expression of whatever it is I'm looking at. And I can't discern that with this drink. And so something that the Mr. Green Tea guy places out, and as well as I think Marcus even says too, but she's so adamant with going on this busy, design, and where they make it work or whatever. But honestly, I feel like I'm reluctant to say I wish it would have went the opposite direction. And they actually, Mr. Green Tea, the guy that owns that, brought out two of his labels. One was 7 years old, the other one was current. The one that was current, I thought, was 7 years old, was a 7-year-old label. Because a 7-year-old label had more design and more flair, but still was to the point, but it still was too busy. Why do you think that they switched from the more busy label to the more simple label? And by the way, let me illustrate the simple label, what it is currently. I want you to picture this. White background, light green, bold font, standard, bold font. Light green, though, against the white. Mr. Dot Green Tea. That's it. Simple, direct, to the punch. You know what you're buying. And they evolved into that. You would have thought by looking at those two labels, they would have evolved into the other label. But clearly, people are saying, we want to understand what we're looking at. So they changed their label. And I'm sure that they stuck with it because it boosted sales. Now, the identification behind the label is what's important to understand. It doesn't have to be an ice cream label. It doesn't have to be a cold brew label. It's identifying what it is in your life that you're making too complex, that you need to actually simplify just a little bit and maybe break it into tenths instead of this humongous monstrosity of a goal you have. Maybe you need to break it up a little bit and you need to go tenth by tenth by tenth until it's all executed. Because that is how the big goal and vision is always made. That's how the big goal and vision comes to fruition. That's how it's produced. But if you keep looking at it from the grand scheme of everything that it is and turning it into this complex element or situation, your brain cannot handle that. You know why your brain can't handle that? Because you're a dumb human being like me. And our brains love simplicity. They love process. They love order. And if you don't love process and simplicity, then you're on a completely different island that I'm speaking to, and you need to just jump off this podcast right now because there's nothing of value to you preceding in the future. just saying. My feelings won't be hurt. But for those of you that understand what I'm talking about, you also understand the merit in something being simple and you being able to define it and you being able to see the direction that it's going. It makes it palatable. And when something's palatable to you, you can digest it. But when it's impalatable, your body naturally wants to reject it. And you're sitting there forcing it down. How do you force it down? I'm not going to sit there and force down anchovies. I hate anchovies. I know that. My brain knows that. My gut knows that. Period. Buy anchovies. I don't sit there and try to force it down for what? Because it's a protein source? Because it's a good fatty acid source? For what? I can get that somewhere else. Just as good, if not better. And that's palatable to me. Not everything's going to be palatable. But that thing that's not been maybe palatable might be practical to you, like the usage of these stupid soundboards on my wall. I know that they're practical for the application, for my situation. But I can't really digest them when I look at them. But I know that I ultimately can if I sit on it for a while. But it's not something like, these soundboards are not like anchovies. I know I'm not going to digest an anchovy. F anchovies. Got it? Two different palatable natures. One, they both I don't like, but one I know I can digest. If I take these soundboards off the wall, my voice won't be as clear. You will be able to hear an echo somewhat in the room. So I know that these soundboards serve a purpose. They're not done in vain. That anchovy that I'm eating, there's no merit to that. There's no rhyme or reason why I should eat that. I'm not going to digest it. I hate it. I'm wasting the calories on it, etc., etc., etc. I can get the same great elements from another food source. There are things in your life that you're just being flat out lazy for. You're just being flat out lazy. And that's why you're not embarking on them. Not because you can't palate them. Not because you couldn't stomach them if you started to digest them. But because you just lack the discipline or the drive to go move forward in that direction. And there's some things that you're doing right now that you hate ingesting, that are not palatable to you, and that you cannot digest, but you consistently do them. Why? You're not good at it. Why? Why do you keep continuing? Why? Do you ask yourself that question, or do you keep going because you're like, I know that it's going to help me in this, that. No. Why do you do that? What's the real, firm, rooted, anchored reason why you do that? Is it bettering you, or is it making you more miserable? Because if it's not palatable to you and you know it, and it's not based on a laziness, you know that you can't palate it, you can't digest it, and you hate ingesting it. Why do you put yourself through it? Because just as though those anchovies are maybe a healthy source of omega-3s, 6s, etc., I know I can get those same omegas from some other source, like salmon, and I'll be just fine. And I can palate it, and I can digest it just fine. And I look forward to it. It's not a Taco Bell burrito, right? It doesn't have the same kind of zeal as that. Well, that's a bad metaphor here. It's not a bowl of nachos from Figueroa Mountain, but it is palatable. And it's something that I know is good for me. So I keep ingesting it. I'm not making this so complex here where I can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. I can see the light. I can understand why I'm doing this. I can understand what's the nature behind it. I can understand that I also can palate it. And it's something that is clear. There's a process, there's an order, there's a reason to it. And I dissect it intense, and now I'm executing. But if I look at something that's so busy, but I can kind of see something at the end of that, but I make this something of a monstrosity, complexity issue, and I'd say, well, this is something that's so big, I know I can tackle it, blah. And every single day I look at it from the grand scheme of everything that it is, and I don't break it down to everything that I know I can do in that day, then it never gets done. And that could be applied towards your career. That could be applied towards your relationships. That could be applied towards the business you want to open. That could be applied towards the vision that you have in your brain and you see in your dreams and that you breathe through your gut every single day. I breathe visions through my gut, man. I take them out, extract them through my gut. Where are they going to go? They come out of my mouth. They come out through a breath of oxygen because I'm speaking them. That's what I mean when I say I'm breathing out. I'm breathing out. I'm extracting out my visions. I'm extracting out the things that I viscerally love and have a passion for, but I also can palate them. They're not impalatable. They just might not be a reality now, but it doesn't mean in the future I'm not going to make them a reality. But first is first. I can palate them. I can stomach them. I can see them as a reality. I can visualize them. And I love them. So I go full force in them. I'm productive. I'm executionary. I see the simplicity behind it, although it's a complex string of events. I'm breaking them down to a tenth, to a tenth, to a tenth, and executing on that tenth every single day. A tenth on Monday, a tenth on Tuesday, a tenth on Wednesday, etc., until it's done, until it's a reality. I'm never giving up on that. And it helps me to see the clarity in it because I put a process and an order behind it. And I break it up into tenths. Now my brain can wrap around that, and I know that that can become a reality. But it starts from the beginning, from you uncomplicating everything and you making things that seem monstrous a reality by being able to palate them and digest them. If they're not, then you're not going to have the best chances of making those a reality. But the moment that you can see that, you have a visceral taste for something in front of you and you love it. Even if it kind of tastes kind of sour, but you can still palate it and you can digest it. That's something that should not be taken lightly. You can see the future in that. And again, it starts with keeping things out of the way of being complex and bringing things back to simplicity. Because that's how you operate the best. This life isn't meant to be complicated. You're complicating it.